Something felt wrong the moment the sun hit Harbor Line Avenue that morning. Subtle, quiet, but sharp enough to make the air feel like it was holding its breath. You ever sense disaster before it happens? If you want more stories that peel back the layers of human nature just like this one, hit subscribe and drop a like for Inspector Vale before we begin. Morgan Hale paused outside the glass storefront of Harbor Line Cafe, catching sight of her best friend through the fogged window. Inside, Leela Rowan sat alone at their usual corner table, thumb lazily scrolling through her phone, untouched latte cooling beside her. She looked composed, but her eyes told a different story, tired, distant, observant. Morgan pushed open the door with a bright smile as the entry bell chimed. "Hey, sorry I'm late," she said, shedding her light jacket and dropping into the seat across from Leela. "Caleb called, wanted to confirm what dessert I wanted for tonight." Leela lifted her head and delivered a smooth, practiced smile, the kind people in offices use when hiding something behind their teeth. "No worries," she said. "I just sat down." That was a lie. She'd been there for 22 minutes. Morgan ordered a cappuccino and a butter croissant, and before the foam even settled in her cup, she launched into her morning recap, Caleb surprising her with flowers at work just because, her agency approving her pitch, the upcoming promotion that now seemed guaranteed. Every win landed like a neat little bullet point. Every detail sank deeper into Leela's ribs. Once, back in college, they had been equals, running side by side, dreaming in the same direction. They studied together, failed together, celebrated together. But adulthood has a way of quietly reshuffling the deck. Morgan rose fast. Marriage, financial stability, career growth, weekend trips, the life that always seemed to fall into place for some people. And Leela, she worked as an administrator in a small clinic. Her days blurred into identical shifts and exhausted patients. Her husband barely spoke at dinner anymore. Her world felt stuck while Morgan's kept expanding. "Maybe we should do a little girl's getaway," Morgan suggested, breaking a piece of her croissant. "Just the two of us, like when we went to Cedar Lake. That trip was perfect." Leela nodded, but something sour twisted inside her. She remembered Cedar Lake. She remembered feeling close to Morgan, felt like they were still on parallel tracks. Not anymore. Every time she opened social media, Morgan was there, lit by soft restaurant lighting, posing with Caleb on weekend adventures, writing captions that oozed effortless happiness. Hundreds of likes, comments flooding in, digital applause. Meanwhile, Leela's own account collected dust. That night, she lay awake beside her husband, who had already drifted into the same heavy silence he wore every evening. She unlocked her phone, pulled up Morgan's new post, and stared at the glowing screen. A candle-lit dinner, 2 glasses of wine, Morgan smiling like the world had never once disappointed her. 10 years together and somehow it still feels like day one. And that's when the thought arrived, soft, dangerous, uninvited. What if Morgan's life stopped being perfect? It should have vanished as quickly as it came. It should have scared her. It should have stayed a fleeting shadow, but instead it lingered, rooted itself, and slowly, quietly began turning into a plan. Leela didn't act on her dark idea immediately. Thoughts like that don't explode, they simmer. And over the next few days, resentment kept feeding the spark every time Morgan texted something cheerful or posted another photo of her glowing, curated life. The breaking point arrived on a quiet Thursday night. Morgan called just to check in. Her voice was bright, bubbling with good news. Caleb had surprised her with dinner. Her pitch at the agency was approved. Her manager hinted at a promotion. "Everything's finally falling into place," she said. When the call ended, Leela sat alone in the dim living room. Her husband was working late again, leaving an empty chair at the table. And in that silence, the thought returned, sharper now, more confident. What if Morgan's perfect life cracked even a little? The idea didn't frighten her this time. It felt clarifying. The next morning, Leela made a decision. She invited Morgan on a horseback riding trip outside town, something fun, nostalgic, just for them. Morgan lit up instantly. "I'd love that. I've been wanting to do something like this forever." Her excitement only tightened the knot in Leela's chest. That night, Leela researched ranches until she found the one that fit her plan. Red Bluff Trails, known for its wide-open paths where riders could pick up speed on the hills. A place where accidents could happen without suspicion. She booked 2 spots. Saturday arrived crisp and chilly. Leela pulled up to Morgan's driveway at dawn. Morgan rushed out, bright-eyed, flannel shirt neatly tucked in, enthusiasm radiating off her. "This is going to be amazing," she said. "Yeah," Leela answered, gripping the steering wheel harder than she should have. "Just us." The drive wound through wooded backroads and early morning mist. Morgan talked non-stop about work, weekend plans, the dog Caleb wanted to adopt. Leela let the words drift past like static. Red Bluff Trails looked peaceful, wooden fences, grazing horses, rolling hills glowing gold under the sun. Too peaceful for what Leela carried in her pocket. Their instructor, Tom Dawson, greeted the group with an easy country smile. "You ladies ever ridden before?" "Not in years," Morgan said. "A bit," Leela replied, though that was generous. They joined a small group. A retired couple, 2 college girls and a tall, quiet man in a black jacket, Eli Grant. He spoke little, but his eyes were sharp, the kind that took in every detail without blinking. Tom assigned horses. Morgan got a calm chestnut mare named Willow. Leela got a restless gelding called Blaze. As Tom adjusted Morgan's saddle, Leela's pulse pounded. She only needed a moment alone, just a few seconds. And she got them when the older woman had trouble mounting her horse, drawing everyone's attention. Leela stepped toward Willow, pretending to check the reins. Her fingers trembled as they brushed the leather strap under the saddle. She slipped her hand into her pocket, feeling the cold metal of the small folding knife. A quick, subtle slice. Not enough to break the strap, just enough to ensure it would fail under strain. The leather gave slightly beneath the blade. Leela stepped back fast, too fast. "You okay there?" a low voice asked behind her. Her heart lurched. Eli Grant stood a few feet away, watching her, not with suspicion, not yet, but with unnerving focus. "Oh yeah," Leela forced out. "Just checking the saddle. Morgan gets nervous sometimes." Eli nodded slowly. Good to be thorough. But his eyes lingered, too long, too knowingly. Leela walked back to her own horse, feeling her pulse tearing through her chest. The plan wasn't clean anymore. It wasn't simple, because now she wasn't just worried about the saddle. She was worried about him. The trail climbed higher into the hills, pines thinning as the sky opened above them. Hooves beat a steady rhythm on the dirt, and for a while it felt like a normal weekend ride. Morgan rode ahead on Willow, laughing. "This is amazing," she shouted. "Why didn't we do this years ago?" "Guess we were busy," Leela said. She wasn't watching the view. She was watching the saddle. Every creak of leather made her stomach clench. The strap she'd cut that morning was now the only thing between Morgan and the ground. Tom, the instructor, led the line. Behind him, the 2 college girls whispered. The older couple rode carefully in the middle. Near the back, Eli Grant sat quiet and steady, his gaze drifting over the group. After nearly an hour, the trees opened and they rode into a wide hillside meadow. The slope dropped away in a green sheet. Tom raised his hand. "All right," he called. "If you want to pick up the pace, this is the spot. Start with a trot, maybe a light canter, keep space." The college girls were eager. The older couple stayed back. Morgan turned, eyes bright. "Come on, this is our moment. You ready?" "No." "Yeah," Leela said. Tom gave a signal and the horses moved out. Their stride lengthened, shifting from walk to trot. The ground began to bounce under them. Morgan laughed, nudging Willow ahead into the open field. From Leela's angle, the problem was clear now. The saddle under Morgan was a little off-center and the weakened strap was pulled tight under her weight. "Leela, this is incredible," Morgan shouted. She pushed Willow into a light canter. The leather gave. The strap snapped with a hard sound. The saddle lurched sideways. Morgan's scream cut across the hillside as she slid and flew off Willow's back. She hit the grass with a heavy thud and rolled before stopping. Willow bolted, then slowed a few yards away. "Whoa, everyone hold up," Tom yelled. The college girls grabbed their reins, the older couple froze. Leela swung off Blaze so fast her boots slipped. She stumbled, then ran to Morgan. Morgan lay on her side, breathing fast. Her left arm was twisted at a wrong angle. "Oh my God, Morgan," Leela said, dropping to her knees. "Can you hear me?" Morgan's face was gray. "My arm, I can't move my arm." Tom knelt beside them, already on the phone with emergency services. Leela gripped Morgan's good hand. "It's okay. Help is coming. You're going to be fine. I'm here." A few feet away, the fallen saddle lay in the grass, and beside it Eli. He didn't rush over. He crouched by the torn strap, turning it between his fingers. His expression hardly changed, but his eyes narrowed as he traced the clean edge of the cut leather. He wiped his thumb on his jeans, stood, and looked straight at Leela. Their eyes met. No confusion, no panic, just the recognition of someone who has finally confirmed what they suspected. Sirens rose in the distance. To everyone else, Leela was just a terrified friend, kneeling in the grass and whispering comfort. Inside, she knew one thing with awful clarity. The fall might be called an accident. Eli Grant wouldn't buy that for a second. The ambulance arrived faster than Leela expected. Sirens echoed through the valley as paramedics hurried across the meadow with equipment bags bouncing against their hips. Tom guided them to Morgan, stepping aside while they examined her arm and checked for other injuries. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" one medic asked. Morgan nodded weakly, teeth clenched. "My arm, it hurts so much." "It's broken," the medic said gently, "but you're stable. We'll get you to the hospital." They placed her arm in a temporary splint and lifted her onto a stretcher. Leela hovered beside them, her hands shaking so badly she had to hide them in her sleeves. "I'm riding with her," she said immediately. "Of course," the medic replied. But before she followed, she caught movement to her right. Eli. He stood just off the path, hands in his jacket pockets, watching the paramedics work. Not intruding, not asking questions, just absorbing everything calmly, piece by piece. When Leela met his eyes, he didn't look away. He walked toward her with slow, deliberate steps. "Is she going to be all right?" he asked, voice low. "Yes," Leela said quickly. "They said it's just her arm." Eli nodded, but his focus drifted past her, toward the torn saddle lying abandoned in the grass. "You know," he said quietly, "equipment like that doesn't usually fail. Not like this." Leela felt her throat tighten. "It was an accident." "Maybe," he said, "but the cut was clean." He paused. "Precise." A cold wave rolled over her spine. Before she could respond, one of the medics called out, "Ma'am, we need to go." Leela backed away from Eli as if distance could erase the weight of his stare. She climbed into the ambulance, took Morgan's uninjured hand, and forced herself to breathe steadily as the doors shut. Morgan's eyes fluttered open during the ride. "Leela," she whispered. "Yeah, I'm here," Leela said quickly. "You're okay, we're almost there." "I don't understand what happened," Morgan murmured. "Tom checked everything. How did the saddle break?" Leela swallowed hard. "Sometimes things just fail, Morgan. It happens." But the lie tasted sour, and Morgan's confused eyes made something twist painfully in Leela's chest. At the hospital, nurses rushed Morgan into imaging, leaving Leela alone in a bright hallway that smelled of antiseptic. She sat down, burying her face in her hands. This was supposed to be simple, small chaos, a scare, something to shake Morgan's perfect world, not shatter bones. And then a voice broke the silence. "Busy place." Leela's head snapped up. Eli stood a few feet away as if he'd materialized out of thin air. No warmth in his expression, but no aggression either, just that unnerving calm. "Why are you here?" Leela asked, her voice too thin. "Wanted to make sure she was okay," Eli said. "Falls like that can be nasty." Leela forced a nod. "Right, thanks." But Eli didn't leave. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Tell me something," he said. "Did you notice anything off before she fell? Anything unusual with the saddle?" Leela froze. "Tom said it looked fine earlier," Eli continued. "But after the fall, well, it didn't look like normal wear." Leela's pulse spiked. I don't know anything about saddles." He watched her closely. "Yeah, I figured you might say that." A nurse called out from down the hall, "Family of Morgan Hale." Leela pushed past Eli instantly. "That's me." But as she hurried away, she felt it, his eyes following her, steady and certain. The accident had happened, but the real danger had just begun. Hours passed before anyone gave Leela an update. She paced the hallway outside Morgan's room, clutching a paper cup of cold coffee she'd stopped pretending to drink. Every few minutes she glanced toward the elevator, half expecting Eli to appear again. He didn't, but that didn't calm her. He was somewhere thinking, piecing things together. Finally, a doctor approached. "Morgan's x-rays confirm a clean fracture of the radius," she said. "Painful but manageable. We'll cast it, monitor her for a bit, and she can leave later today." Relief washed over Leela so fast she felt dizzy. "Can I see her?" "Yes, room 214. Leela slipped inside quietly. Morgan sat propped up in bed, her arm in a fresh cast, cheeks still pale but eyes alert. When she saw Leela, she smiled weakly. "Hey, you scared me." "I scared you," Leela managed a shaky laugh. "You're the one who fell off a horse." Morgan sighed. "I'm trying to process it. I mean, Tom checked everything." "How does a saddle just break?" Leela forced her expression to stay neutral. "Old equipment, maybe." Morgan didn't look convinced. "It didn't feel old." Leela changed the subject quickly. "How's the pain?" "Bad," Morgan admitted. "But the meds help." They talked for a few minutes, but the conversation barely touched the surface. Morgan eventually drifted toward sleep, eyelids heavy. Leela stood, adjusting the blanket around her. She turned to leave and stopped cold. Eli Grant leaned against the doorway. He didn't speak, didn't move, just watched her. Leela stepped into the hall, quietly closing the door behind her. "Why are you still here?" she whispered. "I wanted a full picture," Eli said. "Saw the doctor on the way in, arm fracture, no internal injuries. Lucky, considering the fall." Lucky. The word hit Leela like a slap. "What do you want from me?" she asked, trying to hold her voice steady. Eli studied her, calm, methodical. "Earlier, you told me you didn't know anything about tack equipment, and maybe that's true, but that strap didn't tear from stress. It was cut, clean, straight." "You're imagining things," Leela said quickly. "Maybe," he shrugged, "but I don't think so." Her pulse thundered. "Are you accusing me of something?" "I'm saying something doesn't add up." Eli paused. "And you were the last person near that horse before the ride started." Leela felt the floor tilt. "You can't prove anything." "Not yet." The words were soft, but they hit harder than a shout. Before she could respond, a nurse walked by, pausing when she saw them. "Are you two family?" "No," Leela said quickly. "Just friends visiting." The nurse nodded and continued down the hall. Eli stepped back from the doorway. "Look," he said, lowering his voice, "I'm not trying to start a scene. I'm just trying to understand what happened." Leela swallowed. "An accident happened." "Yeah," Eli murmured. "That's the official version." A long silence settled between them. Leela could hear the beep of heart monitors behind the door, the hum of fluorescent lights, her own shallow breathing. Finally, Eli straightened. "If something's going on, if there's something you're not saying, I hope you figure it out before someone gets hurt worse." He didn't wait for an answer. He turned and walked down the hall, disappearing around the corner. When he was gone, Leela slipped into an empty waiting room and pressed her hands to her face. She felt sick. The plan had been small, controlled. A stumble, maybe a scare. Nothing permanent. But now there was a detective, because of course he was a detective, who had already connected the dots she thought were invisible. Her phone buzzed. A text from Morgan's husband, Caleb. "On my way. How bad is she?" "Should I bring anything?" Leela stared at the message, guilt rising like a tide. She typed back carefully, "She's okay, just shaken." But as she hit send, she felt it, the walls closing in. Eli's voice echoing, "Not yet." Morgan's confused eyes searching hers. The clean cut in the strap she could still feel under her fingertips. This wasn't slipping away. It was spiraling. And the worst part, Leela had no idea how to stop it now. Caleb arrived at the hospital 20 minutes later, rushing down the hallway with worry written all over him. Leela stood beside Morgan's door, trying to look steady when inside she felt like she was unraveling. "How is she?" Caleb asked. "She's okay," Leela said softly. "Broken arm, but she's stable." Caleb exhaled sharply. Thank God, he squeezed Leela's shoulder. Thanks for being with her. The gratitude hit her like a punch. She nodded, unable to speak as he rushed into the room. For a moment, Leela leaned back against the wall, breathing hard. She told herself to leave, to go home, to disappear for a few hours, anything to get her mind back under control. But as she stepped away, someone else rounded the corner. Tom, the riding instructor. His face was pale, jaw tight, hat in his hands. "I just talked to the ranch manager," he said. "He wanted me to check on your friend." "She's okay," Leela said quickly. Tom nodded, but his eyes kept darting toward Morgan's room. "I've been doing trail rides for 15 years, he muttered. "I've never had a saddle break like that. Something about it wasn't right." Leela's pulse jumped. "Accidents happen." Tom looked at her then, really looked, and something in his expression tightened. "Sure," he said slowly, "but the manager wants all the equipment inspected, just in case." He hesitated. "One of the other riders said he saw someone near your friend's horse before the ride started. Did you notice anything?" Leela kept her face neutral. "I was just checking on her reins. She's not experienced. I wanted to help." Tom nodded like the answer didn't fully satisfy him. "Well, if you remember anything, tell me, or tell the manager. We need to know if something was wrong." He stepped away as Caleb came out of Morgan's room and thanked him. Leela slipped into the hallway before anyone could pull her into another conversation. But halfway to the exit, she froze. Eli Grant was sitting in a chair near the waiting area, elbows on his knees, hands clasped loosely, like he'd been waiting for her. Their eyes met. He stood. "You look like you're about to pass out," he said calmly. "I'm fine," Leela replied, though her voice betrayed her. "Are you?" Eli asked. "Because you've been shaking since the meadow." Leela looked away. "I've had a long day." "Yeah," he said. "You and your friend both." He stepped closer, not threatening but direct. Tom recognized something was wrong with the saddle. "So did I, and sooner or later someone else will too." "You don't know what you're talking about," Leela whispered. Eli studied her with unsettling patience. "You ever notice how guilt works?" he said quietly. "People think it stays inside, but it doesn't. It leaks. Shows up in your face, your voice, the way you move." He paused. "And right now, you're leaking guilt everywhere." Her legs went weak. "Stop. I'm giving you a chance," Eli said. "Talk to me before this gets worse." Leela felt her throat close. "I said stop." Eli hesitated, then stepped back. "All right. But Layla, whatever's going on, it won't stay hidden." The elevator dinged behind him. He stepped inside and the doors slid shut, leaving her alone with the sterile hum of hospital lights. When Leela finally made it outside, the cold air hit her like a slap. She gripped the railing by the steps, trying to steady her breath. She'd wanted a shift in Morgan's life, a crack in the perfect image. But she hadn't expected the fallout to come so fast or so sharp. Eli suspected her. Tom suspected something. And soon, Morgan would start thinking too. Every domino she'd tipped was beginning to fall, and she was standing in the middle of them. Morgan was discharged later that evening, her arm wrapped securely in a cast while Caleb helped her gather her things. Leela walked a few steps behind them, trying to look supportive while her mind tangled itself into knots. Caleb kept thanking her for staying the whole day. Morgan hugged her carefully before getting into the car. "You're the best," she said softly. "I don't know what I'd do without you." The words nearly dropped Leela to her knees. She stood in the parking lot long after their car pulled away, staring at the space they'd occupied. The cold wind pressed against her jacket as though trying to push her forward, away from everything she'd just done. She almost believed she might get away with it. Almost. As Leela turned toward her own car, a familiar voice cut through the silence. "Leaving without saying goodbye," her breath caught. Eli Grant stepped out from behind a nearby SUV, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "What do you want now?" she asked, exhausted. "A conversation," he said. "The real one." Leela shook her head. "I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen," he replied, stepping closer. "Your friend is lucky. That fall could have been a lot worse, could have been fatal, and I don't think you understand how close she came." Leela's voice cracked. "Stop. You think I'm here to threaten you?" Eli asked. I'm not. I'm here because I don't want to watch this spiral any further for her sake and honestly for yours. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. He paused. You're drowning in something you can't handle alone, and guilt like that has an expiration date. She felt her composure collapse piece by piece. I didn't mean for her to get seriously hurt. I believe you, Eli said quietly, but intention doesn't erase consequences. For a long moment, Leela stared at the pavement. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, frantic breaths. What happens now? She whispered. That depends on you, Eli said. You can keep lying, keep pretending, but the longer you run, the worse this gets for everyone. His voice wasn't harsh. It wasn't angry. It was the voice of someone who had seen too many people destroy themselves trying to outrun their own reflection. Leela nodded slowly, as if the weight of the entire day was finally settling on her shoulders. I'll tell her, she whispered. I'll tell Morgan the truth. Eli watched her, trying to read whether she meant it. Then do it soon, he said, before someone else gets hurt, before your guilt chooses for you. He stepped back, giving her space. Leela got into her car, hands trembling as she gripped the steering wheel. She didn't start the engine right away. She simply sat there, staring ahead, realizing she had arrived at a place she never expected to be, on the fault line between confession and collapse. Morgan's voice echoed in her memory, "You're the best. I don't know what I'd do without you." A lie now, and Leela knew it. The question wasn't whether she would break, it was when. As she finally turned the key and pulled out of the parking lot, one thought consumed her completely. She couldn't run from this forever. Thank you for watching Inspector Vale. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit like. It helps the channel grow and bring you more stories like this. Now the question for you. Do you think Leela should confess everything to Morgan, or is it too late for redemption? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be watching the discussion.